Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Sean Schoenmakers, the owner of Action Coach Dallas, where we are helping business owners build and grow their businesses to ultimately improve their lives. Today we have Scott Newman on with us. He's the owner of Titan Armored, and so he'll tell us more about those details of the business and how he got into it and all the good stuff that we're anxious to hear about. Hopefully some best practices, those kinds of things. So if this is your first time on the channel watching this video, make sure you like and subscribe and do all those things to get notifications, of course, when we drop more videos in, so that way you can continue to get all the interesting stories and good learnings and things like that. So without further ado, Scott, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me on, Sean. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm glad to have you. So like I said, without further ado, Scott, maybe you could tell us or introduce us to your business if you could, or your company, and then tell us the problems you solve.
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Scott Newman. I'm the founder and CEO of Titan Armored. We specialize in bulletproof safety solutions, primarily for schools, higher education, healthcare, and corporate applications. So, my background is in the armored vehicle manufacturing business. So, in a previous company that I had, we armored civilian vehicles, up armored them, and then we sent them all over the world to protect civilians, diplomats, heads of state, government contractors, and tier one operators. Um,
Cool.
with unfortunate world we live in and the rise of school, active shooters and school shootings, um, I always felt that I would get back in the armor business. I just didn't know when or how that would happen. And then that unfortunate school shooting tragedy in Uvalde, Texas, brought me back into this business and um, made a commitment then to start developing a product that could be used in a school setting, something that was bullet resistant in the event of an active shooter, but an everyday teaching tool. So we came up with our flagship product, which is the Tag Mobile, which is it's a bulletproof mobile whiteboard. So a teacher can use it every day in a classroom, or it can be used to greet visitors in the entry to a school. But in the event of an active shooter, students, faculty, and staff can shelter in place behind the Tag Mobile and our bullet resistant products.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah, and I know it's kind of like one of those scenarios you hope you never experience or encounter, but like you said, it happens, unfortunately. And so if you have some tools, thanks to you guys, that you can use, then fantastic. You kind of are set for, of course, normal school setting, but also the tragedies if needed, right? So awesome. And so how you mentioned being in the industry previously and now back in it, but and you mentioned the shooting, but how and why? Was it that particular shooting in particular that got you to start the business, or was it other things?
Well, it's an interesting long journey. Again, I was in the armored vehicle manufacturing business. Then the world started to change. The wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, started to draw down. It just wasn't necessarily, a necessity, if you will. And so I transitioned out of that business and had started another business, and we were manufacturing sit to stand desks when that was a thing pre-COVID. I was using a dry erase glass surface on my desk, so you could write on it. And again, that world changed, coming out of COVID. And then, as you mentioned, or we talked about earlier, with the shooting in Uvalde, when I went into the standing desk space, I always thought in the back of my mind, if somebody came in, workplace violence is an issue. If somebody came in and wanted a disgruntled employee, you had a bullet resistant desk that you could tilt over and
Tip
become a
over.
shield. Well,
Yeah.
that really, those two things really came together. It really it bothered me as well as a lot of people in law enforcement administrators that so many minutes passed by in Uvalde due to unfettered access to that school, and students, faculty, and staff were just they were helpless until law enforcement went in. So from there, I wanted to start really designing something that was functional, but like you said, that could be used as an everyday teaching tool, something that's discreet. Kids don't need to know
Hmm.
that there's a bulletproof barrier in their classroom, and subsequently after Uvalde, um, started putting a lot of security measures in and around schools, minimum requirements. Well, I wanted to do something because if an active shooter wants to get in a school, they're going to get in. If they want to go in and cause harm, they're going to find a way to get in the school. I wanted to have something that was inside as a physical barrier, especially when schools, they teach run, hide, fight, shelter in place. I wanted to create a product that would quantifiably allow people to time, space, and distance to shelter in place in the event of an active shooter, so the first responders can get there and then neutralize the threat. So that's really
Yeah.
how all two of those applications came together. And I feel like we've developed something that is useful. So it's something that is it's a mobile dry erase whiteboard every day of the week that just happens to be armored and ballistic in the event of an active shooter. So it's not like an AED device or a smoke detector or a fire extinguisher that are only used if somebody has cardiac arrest or if there's a fire. This is something that integrates discreetly into the surrounding of any school, across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that discrete piece. I hadn't really kind of emphasized that portion of it based on what you talked about. But yeah, it's kind of nice to not have to explain to the kids, yeah, hey, FYI, we've got this huge bulletproof barriers in case some guy comes in and starts shooting, right? It's like, it's nice to not have to
Right.
do, or at least, make it that
Well,
obvious. So hopefully they
well,
maintain the feeling of safety,
if you,
right?
if
So
if you think about guys like us and our generation when we grew up in if you're from the DFW area, I mean we were worried about a tornado, and so we hid under our desk. I'm the father of a 14-year-old and 9-year-old daughter. They come home and they talk about lockdown drills, and
yeah.
so it's the new normal in school. So I wanted to, and we spared no expense in this product to create a world-class product that is 100% discreet. And so that way they can come and then they can do what they're intended to do at schools, which is to learn and thrive in a learning environment, but provide peace of mind to teachers and educators and administration because they think about this too. And so,
Hmm.
as a parent, I think we can all agree that if you have children or not, we know somebody that's in the education profession, and so it touches really everybody across a community.
Yeah. For sure. And so, is there a lot of so I guess first question, if I'm in the audience, how do I know if I'm a good fit? Obviously, this sounds like it's made for schools. How do I know if I'm one of your potential, if I could benefit from your partnerships?
I think if there's the potential of a threat in your workplace, you're a potential customer. I think we learned that firsthand from the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare. So we live in a very politicized world. People are on a very short fuse. Violence is the new normal. So our product, first and foremost, I designed it specifically for K through 12 space because I wanted to protect schools first.
Mm.
Higher education, active shooters are on the rise at universities. As we've seen, a disgruntled employee creates a potential problem in a workspace. Don't forget, in most corporate offices, if you can get past the receptionist or the gatekeeper and gain access with the key card or however into a large office, it's the same thing as a school. You have a lot of people there that you could potentially do harm to before the first responders get there. I think we've also found recently the rise in shootings in hospitals and in the healthcare space. Not to mention government facilities as well. Any type of a government building is a potential risk when you look at the threats. And then lastly, because we also manufacture bullet resistant glass, you look at retail and storefronts. Case in point would be all of the domestic terrorism directed towards Tesla and their retail locations across the country. So our application can be any place that somebody feels the need to increase their safety and security via a physical barrier.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like you said, designed kind of originally for schools, but a lot of applications.
Oh
In
yeah,
fact,
100%.
probably more applications than just schools. Well, that
Oh
are
yeah.
yeah. So what about is there a lot of competition in the space? What makes your business unique?
There is some competition. By far and away, we are the leader in the space because we offer the highest level of armoring There's a lot of semantics in the armoring as what will your bulletproof product defeat. We defeat all rounds of assault weapons, starting with an AR-10, which is a 308 round, down to an AR-15, which is the M193, and then you move down to handguns. So number one, safety, the product, what it defeats is number one most important to me. Number two, we've spared no expense with materials. We actually use a low iron, great quality dry erase glass board that we have a patent pending on that. And top notch. Backside of it, we have an acoustic panel, which is creates some sound reduction in a class board, but the acoustic panel can be used to display artwork, wayfinding, homework assignments. It's on heavy duty casters. So in essence, if it's positioned in a hallway, a school resource officer, SRO, they can literally use it as a forward operating shield. That's really where this is starting to go to, is protecting law enforcement and first responders that would be there to engage with an active shooter. Bear in mind one thing: most SROs in a school carry a 9 millimeter. An active shooter is going to enter the school building with a long gun, an assault weapon. And so, what if our product is used maneuverably wise, to maneuver by an SRO down a hallway, it's going to shorten that distance until they can engage and provides an actual physical barrier.
Yeah.
So that's something that, as we get into it. So yeah, going back to your question, yeah, we do have some competition, but some people that are out there offer old school whiteboards. Ours is a dry erase glass board. Again, it's something that's designed to be world class, and it truly is. I mean, our product, if you were to see it in person, you would know that it was bullet resistant unless we shot it. Period.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. So let's chat about marketing. Again, a lot of generally business owners watching these interviews that we do. And so from a marketing perspective, obviously some businesses struggle from the marketing side to generate leads and generate some business. But what's been the number one marketing strategy that's brought you the most business, Scott?
Really and truly, building off your previous question of having a world-class product, best in class. For me, I think it starts there. Are we first to market? No. Are we best in class? Yes. Do we want to be branded as, the Coca-Cola of bullet resistance, safety, and security? You bet. And I think the start of that is building a world-class product. Number two, it's delivering what you're selling, and not being afraid to ask for that referral. Your organic marketing via a referral or a testimonial is worth its weight in gold. Most startups just they can spend a small fortune in digital marketing right out of the gate, and knowing who your audience is. That's something that we've been laser focused on. Yeah, we have a lot of sales verticals, and there's probably more that we haven't even talked about. However, our audience right now is K through 12, and that's where we're really focusing on. And again, we asked for referrals. We started out about a month and a half ago, and we were going to do just a targeted digital spend, going more towards Facebook. We were going more towards parents, PTAs, PTOs, to really test Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas specifically. We posted video across all social platforms before we could even, including YouTube, mainly TikTok, and Instagram. Before we could even get to the paid ad, our TikTok video went viral within days. And it was surprising to me because I know marketing and advertising very well. I think I know my audience very well. I thought there's no way TikTok will bring me anything. Completely false. TikTok within days went viral. What was interesting about that is it was the SROs and people in law enforcement that are protecting the students. So even though here I am telling you, I know my audience, I really didn't. Yeah. The Instagram video on the Instagram Reels to date is 2.6 million views. And so
Yeah.
the Instagram Reels um, has 2.6 million views to date. And
Yeah.
it's been incredible. Our sales funnel, our pipeline is completely full. We've received more leads in 4 weeks than we had received in 1 year. Now you're talking to somebody that thinks he knows his audience.
Yeah.
So when it comes to marketing and advertising, what I would suggest to anybody is spend a small amount of money across all platforms to really hone in on your audience. Case in point, my background, I was in the advertising space. And it completely shattered what I thought until it actually happened. And also too, it's to be consistent with whatever you're doing.
Hmm.
I'm big on LinkedIn, um, but again, the odds of something going viral, they're small. But if they do, you got to put your foot down. But again, I would be very careful to other entrepreneurs about a big shiny object. And if
Yeah.
you're going to do it on a small scope. And if it works, continue to put money into it because what works now might not work, in 6 months. I would have thought because I'm K through 12, oh, teachers, parents, Pinterest would be a great place for us. Pinterest hasn't worked.
Yeah.
YouTube has been, out of all platforms, YouTube has been extremely consistent. I think that also, too, if you have a product, something that people can see, getting comfortable in front of a camera, as an entrepreneur, you are the brand, and you have to be comfortable being the face of your brand. People, they're not just buying from Titan Armored. They might because, but the connection with the founder and the CEO. I think that's incredibly huge. Is to put yourself out there, and it's okay to be authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, sounds like I think it's a TikTok, right? TikTok has basically been your biggest marketing strategy, and not necessarily because you thought it was going to be, but you
Oh
just said,
yeah,
"Hey, try a couple things," and so that's kind of what you're also sounds like suggesting, recommending for folks is, "Hey, try a lot of things, but try them on a small budget, for example, and then hey, depending on what happens." And that's why we always talk about in marketing,
it's
it's testing and measuring because no one knows what's going to happen until you
100%.
do.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
well, and and look, I mean, in Dallas is it's a big city, but it's still a small town. And the amount of people that have come up and that I know that have texted me and like, oh my God, I saw you, you're everywhere. And I got to say one more thing. When you put yourself out there, get ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's some haters that are out there. And
Yes.
we're in a controversial. People think that it's a money grab because we're capitalizing on that. No, no, couldn't be more further from the truth. We want to prevent lives and we want to help save lives while adding districts an incredible piece of a furniture that they can teach with and utilize every single day. But
Yeah.
you've got to have thick skin, and that's just, and again, that goes part of the world that we live in. And people are, they love their opinions, they love to hate on Americans. But yeah, that those two videos going viral was a game changer for us.
Yeah, and I do think that's something that people are concerned about is hey, if I put content out, I'm gonna have people to put me down or
Yep.
complain or talk about how crappy I am or things like that. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yep, that's gonna happen, right? Like, you might as well just get ready for it because, like you said, we do workshops, and so and many times I'll get up and speak in front of crowds, and it never
Hmm.
fails. I mean, I do feedback forums typically because hey, I want to get some feedback, and almost there's always like 1 out of 50, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 100. There's always someone out there that's like, has something negative to say, and that's okay, right? That's always gonna be there. So it's like, just you know, don't let it bother you. Big deal. People have opinions, right? So,
I
and if you can
think
get, yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, if you truly believe in your product and you believe in what you're doing and what it stands for, look, it's just, that's just background noise to me. And
Yeah.
you never think it's, those are things that I would have never dreamt about, a month and a half ago as having, videos that have gone viral. It's been great. It absolutely has. But still, we're still honing in with our message. So,
Yeah.
we're still doing things every day and it's to be consistent. But I think once you do that and you start getting that momentum, that's where it becomes, and again, as you know, being an entrepreneur, you're wearing a ton of hats. And you in essence, you eat what you kill. Hate to say that, but you do. We're all hunters, and you're only as good as your next deal. So you're trying to sell. One day you might be creating purchase order templates, or you might be trying to get, you know, credit with a financial institution. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, great. Now I've got to figure out how I'm going to post one video on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and all these platforms. But you've got to be disciplined and consistent with that messaging as well, because you're right. Startups don't have that disposable income just to throw at somebody that is quote unquote their marketing person. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, they might just take their money. You hear the horror stories too. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, another reason why we talk about the measurement because if you're not
Hmm.
measuring it, you don't know how it's working, and if you don't know how it's working, it could be a waste.
Right,
So, yeah,
right, right, right. I mean, and I will say this too. I talk about our pipeline. We've converted sales from those videos. So we actually already are converting and have converted leads from the viral video, which is great. At the end of the day, it only cost me $500 for 3 videos, and the first one went viral. So you talk about
yeah,
measuring your ROI, you can't put a price tag on that. And they live forever on the internet.
yeah,
And so I think that's another thing too, is make sure, video is huge, SEO is huge. Again, as you start getting more, towards your SEO and your search, it's the gift that really keeps on giving.
yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you know the numbers. That makes me a happy person. So, how about next question? Um, what's the most memorable, or let's say the hardest challenge that you've had thus far on your journey, and how did you overcome it?
Most memorable challenge, or I think probably for me, it's well, first of all, we have all of our products independently tested. So, all of our bullet resistant products are sent off to a third party to be tested. Okay, number one, so we can quantifiably say that it does what it says it's going to do. I was in Houston, met with a prospect, and this guy, he was a total Kyle. And he kept telling me that the product was going to fail. If somebody shot it, it would tip over, it would crush kids. And I one, never had an 0.01% of self doubt. But as I was driving back from Houston, doubt started to creep in. And when I got back from Houston, we had the Tag Mobile in our shoot house, and we shot it with everything: AR-10, AR-15, AK-47, handguns. We didn't lock the casters, as I mentioned. The thing didn't move, didn't even budge. That to me was a big moment because I knew quantifiably that I had seen it defeat what it's supposed to defeat. To the tune to where I could quantifiably say I will put my wife and my 2 daughters and my family behind our Tag Mobile if a threat stands between them and between us, if you
Yeah,
will. So
yeah,
that was big validation for me. And then another big milestone was the U.S. Border Patrol shot one, and they probably hit it with over 250 rounds, and that was a big deal. They endorsed the product, so
nice.
that's big. That's validation. As I think I mentioned earlier, the word bulletproof doesn't exist. It's a bullet resistant product,
Yeah,
but it's designed to buy you precious minutes and seconds to mitigate the loss of life in the event of an active shooter. That was
yeah,
really big for me as a founder.
I bet. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It sounds like awesome, man. You work
Yeah.
long and hard on a product or service, and to see it perform exceptionally as pure as reward, or as a lot of feels really good. So,
Oh,
um,
100%.
yeah. What about as an employer? What have you learned? What's the biggest learning as an employer since you began in business?
I would say that, going back to right person, right seat, we operate on EOS and the traction model. And, when you're an entrepreneur, and we've all been burned, we've all brought somebody in that could do wonders and make so much for the company and themselves, and that person failed. I think that hiring the right people in the right seat is the most important thing. And if for some reason you have the right person but the wrong seat, find the right seat for that person, but make quick decisions, and really invest your time bringing in the right stakeholders. I can say this that the people that we have on the team, they all treat this business as if it's their own. And we use the word partnerships, and that's something that's really important to us. And also too is when you bring in people on the team and you're a small business, it's getting everybody's input because you have to really function as one in order to get to those, your 1 year, your 3 year, and your 5 year goals. We're coming up on 1 year, and it's hard to believe that a year ago we had a concept, and then we had to prove it out, and now it's proof to scale. And so, so much has happened over that year, and so many businesses, they don't make it to their first year, but they operate on dysfunction. And this year our theme for the year is consistent discipline, and it's focusing on being 1% better every day. And we're going to make mistakes, but if we make mistakes, we learn from them and we move on immediately. And being very nimble, because at the end of the day, competition, but first to market always wins if you do it the right way and you have the best product.
Yeah, first to market is one of the most important marketing principles. Of course, can't always be the first in all things, but
Oh
definitely
yeah,
a
absolutely,
leg up when you
absolutely.
can. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
what would you do differently if you started over today?
I did if I started over today. There's been a couple of decisions we've made which haven't worked out, um, but they got us to where we are, but they weren't going to get where we're going. Maybe to have seen, I know I see the internet going out, maybe to be able to execute personnel decisions a little bit earlier. I kind of answered your first question a little bit more after the fact. Is if you feel like somebody's the wrong person, move on from that person faster. That would probably be one thing. Um, I would say too, if I a couple of things, maybe back to your marketing piece, maybe the brand at an earlier stage and being a lot more confident in the product and me being out there in front of the camera. I think it would have helped us accelerate even faster. But those are small in the grand scheme of things. I will say this: I've surrounded myself with mentors that I'd never thought I needed in previous businesses. Shame on me. If you know mentors or people that are entrepreneurs or in your vertical that have had good success, ask them, talk to them, lean into people that have been there and done that, especially in your space. That has been huge. And I try to play that forward. So, by no means do I have all the answers, but I certainly would like to help other entrepreneurs and am open to help them avoid a potential mistake that maybe I've made or somebody else did that they shared with me. So, a lot of people love to share best practices on a podcast. Not many people want to look in the mirror and share a worst practice. And I think
Mhm.
that that's really where your humility has to be, right there in front.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Learn from those that have done, and of course, if you're learning from those that have done, then they're obviously sharing. So maybe you should also be open to sharing some of those mistakes and so forth, so everyone wins. Yeah. So
Yeah, you fail. We're going to fail every day in some form or fashion, and what we say is fail forward and fail fast.
yeah,
If you're a no right now. That's great, and then just move on down the road. The faster you can handle rejection, the better, because a lot of entrepreneurs will sit there and they gauge their business and the life of their business based on, how many impressions they get on an Instagram post or on social media or whatever. Sorry, but that's not selling your product. And you've got to get out there and be visible. You have to be visible. And it's okay to knock on doors. People, if you've got something that people are interested with, go to them. Get out there and knock on doors. It
Yeah,
works.
I like that. So before we get into the last question of the day, how can others learn more about you or your company, Scott? Where can they get it? How can they get in contact?
Yeah, great question. So if you want to learn more, our website is Titan, Titan, Titan dash armored, ARMORED.com. You can do a Google search of Titan Armored. Our legal name is Titan Armored Systems. That should take you to us. Again, you can find me on LinkedIn. Extremely active. And then, of course, Titan Armored on all social media.
Nice. And last question, any special offers you'd like to offer any listeners?
Yeah, if you anybody from this show that wants to purchase our product or knows anybody, a school will offer 10% off. Our list price on our tag mobiles are $5,500, but 10% discount for any listener, any referral from this. Or I'll tell you what, if anybody that's listening out there wants to connect us with the school or whatever, we'll reciprocate and we'll offer you a finder's fee if we sell them a product. So or we'll
Okay.
make a donation to their charity of choice. Whatever we want to play it forward in any form or fashion that we can.
Awesome. Yeah, good stuff. So if you're listening, make sure you take advantage. And with that, Scott will say thanks so much for joining us. And hopefully, thank you, audience, for listening and take advantage, like I said, of some of Scott's story and thoughts and ideas and things he's done to implement into your business. And so with that, we'll say make it a great day. So thank you, Scott.
Appreciate it, Sean. Great job. You're doing great work.
Appreciate it.